The year was 1884. Nestled in the rugged hills of Pennsylvania lay a small town called Blackwood. The residents of this town had built their entire economy and their very homes atop a sprawling labyrinth of coal mines. A deep, persistent dread lived in the heart of every citizen, a fear of the fragile, hollowed earth that lay directly beneath their floorboards. And every morning, this fear was only amplified by the haunting toll of the bell at St. Jude's. In this place, the morning began not with the first light of the sun, but with the tolling of the bell at St. Jude's, a bell the townsfolk called cursed. There was no sweet melody in its ring, only a strange, haunting shiver, like a cry escaping an iron throat. Most wanted it torn down and cast away. But Elias, the old clocksmith, would always say that every broken thing has a purpose. The universe brings nothing into existence without reason. Today, I'll tell you the story of that bell, which proved that sometimes what we perceive as a flaw is the only thing standing between us and the grave. Blackwood was a town built on coal and iron. Its streets were narrow, its faces weathered by dust, and every home lived with a singular fear: the vast hollow mines beneath the mountains. The bell of St. Jude's stood high in a tower at the town center, but when it rang, it didn't offer a traditional ding-dong. Instead, it let out a long, trembling hum that grated against the ears. It didn't sound like a bell. It sounded like a funeral wail. Finally, the mayor at town hall delivered the verdict. The bell comes down next Sunday. We have no room for this noise. Elias, whose fingers had felt the heartbeat of 1,000 clocks, climbed the tower that night. He traced the cold iron with his palm and found a hairline fracture along the rim, a crack so thin it was invisible to the naked eye. To the world, the bell was simply broken. But Elias's seasoned eyes saw something else. He noticed that whenever there was the slightest tremor deep beneath the hills, this bell would hum without being struck. It hadn't just fractured, it had become sensitive. Drawing from his decades of experience, Elias tried to listen with his soul rather than his ears. He sensed a hidden rhythm in its shiver, and instead of taking it down, he chose to let it be, granting the bell its peace for a little while longer. That Saturday night, while the town slept in anticipation of removing the bell the next morning, the tower began to sway. No one pulled the rope, yet that terrifying hum erupted, louder and more piercing than ever. Elijah ran into the streets barefoot and shouting, "Get out! Run from the hills!" They thought he was a madman, but then a deafening roar shook the earth. The main coal vein had collapsed. The bell wasn't just ringing, it was feeling the tectonic shifts deep within the mountain. That tiny fracture had turned the bell into a massive iron seismograph. Not a single soul was lost that night because the cursed bell had screamed a warning before death could reach their doors. The next day, the bell was taken down, not to be discarded, but to be honored. Elias taught the world that nothing is truly useless. Sometimes our wounds and our flaws are the very things that make us more sensitive than others. If there is something in your life that feels broken, remember this: nature might be preparing you for a task that a whole person could never perform. If the universe has introduced you to a weakness within yourself, it may be a sign that this very flaw is meant to fill a void far greater and more important than you realize. Perhaps your weakness is destined to become your greatest strength. Please hit the like button if this message moved you, subscribe for more stories of historical wisdom, and share this video. because you never know who needs to hear that their flaws are actually their greatest gift. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.